Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. It's part two. It's Wednesday. If you're listening live, anyway, it's Wednesday. Good morning to you all. If you're in the car, I appreciate you coming back for part two with Bec Cameron. She is absolutely incredible because today in part two, the next chapter, Bec shares even more of her personal journey from the discipline and growth that came from bodybuilding to the challenges of stress, anxiety, nutrition, the body image, and navigating those difficult seasons in life. There's so much honesty in this part of the conversation, and what stands out most is Bec's willingness to turn pain into purpose. This is not just a conversation about health and fitness. It's about identity, resilience, healing, and a learning to build a life that truly supports who you are. Here's part two. Let's get back into it with Bec Cameron. The same question goes to now then, your present time, the Bec that I'm speaking to now. Where would you sit on that mental health line?
Oh, I'm going to say 9. I reckon
Nice.
I'm pretty close to the top now, but I think, we all have our little challenges and struggles.
Yeah, I think the healthy one is 8 and 9, isn't it? Because we can keep striving for more. We can keep searching for what we not searching. We might understand our purpose, but enhance it. Let's say, yeah, I love that. Anxiety. We discussed anxiety in our pre-chat a little bit. I never really knew what anxiety was till I hit 32. It was after my journey of going through what I went through, and even ongoing. Really, just I really suffered with a lot of anxiety, and I used to look at people with anxiety. It's weak. Obviously, I learned heavily that's not the case. That was obviously just my immatureness kicking in and my masculinity coming out. But anxiety really affected me and how to navigate it. And a lot of people, I see anxiety in children so much more now than I ever did when I first started teaching. Has anxiety ever affected you in your life, and what did it look like, and how did you navigate now? Or do you still is anxiety still part of your life now?
Yeah, so anxiety is probably one of the biggest mental health challenges that I have had throughout my life. And I do still struggle with it a little bit now, but I think I'm much more aware of how to manage and control it. So I think it first came up for me in childhood, and I don't think I knew or understood this at the time. But when I was younger, I did have quite a turbulent home environment that I was living in. Like my parents were not happy together. There was always a tension in the household, I suppose, and I didn't have the best relationship with my mum either. And that was when my insomnia started. And I didn't understand that this was anxiety at the time, but now that I look back, I know that it was. Like I was having night terrors. I was waking up to this same dream every night that I would wake up and sweat and I was terrified. So even if I did fall asleep, I would wake up. And I do think that that was connected to anxiety as well. And then
Yeah.
I would say that as I kind of grew up and maybe moved out of home, I was pretty happy go lucky. Like I was pretty chilled and always like go with the flow. Didn't really feel that anxious until I then got into that toxic relationship that I mentioned. And that really resurfaced that for me. And that was my first experience with anxiety as an adult. And that was
Yeah.
more of a full body response because I felt unsafe in my own home, and I never knew what they were doing, and I never knew what I was going to get, like what sort of mood or reaction I was going to get from them. So it was like a walking on eggshells environment. And that was when I started having like that visceral response, like it was upsetting my digestive system. And I really noticed like that flow on effect there. And since then, I think it has always been present, and it's something I've learned to control and improve. And obviously removing myself from that situation played a big role in that, and going through therapy and delving into, okay, where did this actually start from as a child has been really helpful for me in navigating that. But I do still put like a lot of pressure on myself. I do still probably bite off more than I can chew sometimes, and with that does come a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah. For me, anxiety, I not realized I was going to I'm being vulnerable, and I'm hoping create space for you to explain it too. But I'd find myself sweating, and I was wearing deodorant then. It's funny you brought that up before because I never really opened up that chapter before with people, but I actually don't wear deodorant since I've
Ah,
really,
we don't need
yeah.
it. You stop producing the odor, I think, when you stop wearing it.
But I also, on the flip side of that though, we're mentally healthy though. I think if you are struggling with certain things, they do come out, and they do bring out that smell. But since I've really focused on my mental health and got rid of stress, that chronic stress, and when my body spoke to me, and I nearly passed away with septic shock, again the body was speaking to me. But once I went through those route and looked at sleep, food, and exercise, if I'm playing basketball, obviously that's different. You sweat, and that's a different type of sweat, and you might come off the court and you'll need a shower. That's standard. But in my daily life, I've now reflected and can see those anxious moments, and that, yeah, that smell might be there. Not really. It's not even there then. But I have. I used to be able to smell myself, but I was really stressed. Since I've really focused on the stress, that smell doesn't go. And I don't wear deodorant. Some people might go, "Oh, that's gross, Andy," but no. It's funny that you brought that up because I never really opened up about that. But
There we go.
I would go through my anxious period, I'd go to the bathroom, like, seriously, if anyone's listening to me back where I used to work, I'd go to the toilet like 9 times, 10 times a day, take my shirt off and wash myself and dry the shirt under the hairdryer because I was so anxious. Because it connected to my journey. So, with workplace bullying, but I would be at work, and that's where, anxiety would come out, because the tiger's there, but you don't know when the tiger's going to attack. And I suppose it's the same for you with what you went through, because anxiety is a byproduct of fear. And what I always share with people on here and with children at school is, you could go into YouTube and watch a deer being attacked by a lion, let's say. Fear has to set in, because if fear doesn't set in, you're going to be dead, because fear's telling, obviously, the mind and the body that there's something wrong, it's not right, we need to move, let's get out of here. There's two results, isn't there, to the attack? It's either survival or death. That's it. There's no other results. It's two results, death or survival. But on the video, when the attack's over, fear leaves, and the mother is, if it's the mother or the father, it's back to looking after its young again. And if it doesn't look after its young, the tribe or the family will die, because the attack will happen again, and they're not doing their job, let's say, their role as a parent. So anxiety didn't really exist out in nature, but because we've created all these houses and suburbs, and we're not living in tribes anymore, and we all have to go to school every day or to work every day, and if the tiger's there, we can't run. We still have to go to work. We still have to go to school, and that's anxiety coming out. That's the byproduct of fear. We can't run, so our body's telling us it's not right, but you're not running, so you know what I mean? You know where I'm coming from? I think that's
Yeah. It's a
a nice way
survival
to explain.
response at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I've sweated every day. And sometimes, even when I sometimes talk about my journey, I can feel myself. Now I know my body so deeply. I know when that cortisol or that's whatever it is coming out, I can feel it go before it even comes out. It's bizarre. So I try and do my mindfulness in the moment. What does anxiety look like for the adult Bec, and the knowledge that you have and how much you've worked on?
Yeah, I think it does manifest so differently in different people's bodies. For me, it's more of like a feeling in my stomach, like that anxiety in your belly. And often it will be, if I'm going through a high stress period, I will wake up in the morning and I'll feel anxious for literally no reason. Like I can't link anything in my brain that is making me feel that way. And
Mm.
it's more of a internal physiological response rather than a brain driven response. So it's not that I'm actually even thinking about something specifically, it's more just the state of my nervous system is producing that anxiety response.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Going back to your childhood then, obviously that was the root. Where do you think it came from in your childhood? I know you said you didn't have the best relationship with your mum. What did that look like, if you're happy to share?
Yeah, so I think when I was growing up, I was always a very independent child, and my sister had a lot of mental health issues herself. So she had a lot of social anxiety, was not very good at going to school. So my mum was very much trying to help my sister a lot of the time, and there was a big disconnect in the relationship between myself and my mum. I think there was also an element where our personalities just didn't really conflict. And my mum had a hard childhood herself. And I think when I look deep, without going too deep into it, I think that I kind of represented what my mum resented from her own childhood. And I feel like that meant it was taken out on me a little bit. And as a result of that, we did have, yeah, a pretty turbulent relationship. And I would say that often I didn't feel even 100% like safe in my own home. I didn't know, again, what kind of mood I was going to get, like how I would be received. And I think that's where that kind of came up for me in childhood. And yeah, it created that first experience with anxiety, which manifested as an insomnia back then.
Yeah. Yep. And did this change who you were in terms of going to school, into relationships and friendships at school? Did you how was that for you?
I still went to school. I loved school. Fun fact about me, I'm a closet nerd. Absolutely loved school. But
Me too.
so yeah, I still went to school. I still did really well at school. I had great friendship groups at school. I was very fortunate in that respect. I think the way that it impacted me the most was because I was really trying to like earn that love and attention, I suppose. It was manifested in me trying to be so good at everything, like so good at school. I wanted to be like that A plus student, get a really good enter score, it was called back then. I wanted to be really good at sports. So I was always working so hard to almost like prove my worth, I suppose.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of belonging and identity, doesn't it, when you don't have it somewhere else or where you feel like you're not getting it somewhere else, especially what's supposed to be your safe space every day, meaning your home. I mean, I let my children really let it go at home. You know, if they need to be loud, I let them be loud. Obviously, with boundaries. It's not the right time. Shush, stop. But I want them to do it in their safe space more so than out there in society. Because that's where problems will occur for them, and then end up connecting with the wrong people. I asked that question to you because sometimes when you're not feeling safe at home, you do go and lash out at school or where it may be, because that gives you a self identity and belonging somewhere else. Maybe not the right approach, but your approach obviously is the best way to go, isn't it? I feel the same. I didn't grow up with my dad, and I went to school and I really worked hard. And like you, I was fast. I was known as the fast runner. I was a good basketball player, but I was a closet nerd. I was in top set for everything. I just wanted to work hard. I don't know if it was anything connected to the other things, but I just wanted that. I really wanted to do well, I suppose. Did
Yeah.
you did you ever tell your mum how you felt?
I did in adulthood. I think probably about 5 years ago now, I
Oh
was
wow.
able to have that conversation with her. And that's something that I did after, yeah, going through therapy. I think with the way that I showed up at school, trying to be the best at everything, that very much came from a not good enough wound from childhood. And I think once I drew that connection, I realized that it still shows up in my life in the sense of feeling that my worth is often connected to my success in different areas. And that's something I've really had to work on and work through. So yeah, part of that therapy, I did actually have a conversation with my mum, quite an emotional one, and brought up, look, this is how I felt when I was growing up, and this is how it's impacted me. And she said, wow, like, thank you for sharing that with me because I had no idea you felt that way. And that was absolutely not my intention. Like, I had to support your sister because she was going through so much with her mental health. And so, but it was such a incredibly healing conversation to have. And it went better than I could have imagined. Like, it was so much better received than I would have anticipated.
Did it bring you guys closer, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely helped us move past the tension that we always had prior to that.
Yeah, nice. I love that. Yeah, I think our parents, when we go through things and we reflect going into adulthood and we look back at our childhood, and because of everything we think about now, modern day, especially with our emotions, we're so deep into feeling, being so open, opposed to 50 years ago when you just shut everything off. I think, yeah, our parents they don't mean, they didn't know any better back then. They don't know. I probably don't. I'm so aware of what I'm trying to get my kids to feel, not feel. I'm not trying to get them to do anything, but you know what I mean? Be aware of, prevent them thinking that about their childhood when they're adults. I'm probably creating whole new problems too at the same time. I'm probably, traumatizing them in a different way that I can't even imagine. So when they're 25, they'll look back and go, "Well, you did this." I'm like, "Oh my God, yeah, I can see that how that happened now." you know, we've mentioned food a couple of times. I remember in our pre-chat you said you started cooking at 14 years old,
I
part of your
did,
independence.
yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What I couldn't even think about dreaming and cooking at 14 years old. Not even now, really. I'm not a very good cook now. I could make a good English breakfast, not very healthy for you, but still. Yeah, why did you start cooking at 14?
Yeah, so I decided I wanted to become a vegetarian when I was 14. And I think part of me thought it was healthier, didn't really like meat. I think it was also a little bit of that eating disorder that I had starting to manifest. But
Yeah.
I wanted to stop eating meat, and my mum was basically like, "No, you guys are too fussy. I'm not cooking for everyone. If you don't want to eat meat, you can cook for yourself." So, look, my cuisine really consisted of tofu and frozen vegetables and pasta sauce. That's pretty much as far as I got at 14. So I wouldn't say it was nutritious at that point. I was just kind of doing the best with what I could. It wasn't that easy back then. We didn't have, Chat GPT that we could just say, "Hey, what's some great high protein vegetarian recipes that I could cook?"
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I started cooking for myself, basically, because mum said if I wanted to be a vegetarian, I'd have to feed myself.
Are you still vegetarian now, or do you eat meat?
No, I was vegetarian for probably about 7 years. I started eating meat again, I think, when I was like 22, and I'm 34 now.
Yeah. What made you go back to eating meat at the time? Can you remember?
Yeah, so it was really just like a health thing. I felt as though I never had amazing energy. I felt as though like I was getting sick a lot. And I just felt as though something was missing in that perspective. I suppose also going into the bodybuilding world and understanding the importance of dietary protein, but not just dietary protein, actual like complete profiles of amino acids, which can be very hard to get in vegan or vegetarian diets. Like it is doable. And I also know and want to disclaim I have vegan clients and vegan friends that feel incredible and they thrive on it. I think everyone's different as to what works best for them. So that
Yeah.
was my motivation behind adding it back in. And honestly, I feel much better. Even further into my life, I then started adding red meat. So I started with just like chicken and fish. And then as I've started adding red meat in, again, I feel so much better. So I think that obviously my body needed that and it was deficient in, well, could be iron, could be other vitamins and minerals that come from red meat. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really improved my health eating more of it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not gonna lie. I love meat. I, I do. I do. I love meat. I think we've been eating cows for 250,000 years, something like that. So it's I think it's, and again, I go back to that, eating anything that grows from the ground and anything that eat anything that eats from the growing ground. So that's where the meat comes into play for me. You said you just mentioned food disorder. That was the 14 when you started to cut. That's where you said it was started to manifest. Well, talk to us a little bit about your food disorder, and did you have any issues with your body at that time going into that? Is there a route to that?
Yeah, so I think when I was in primary school, I was a very tall, very lean kid, and I would say I always had a really good metabolism and I was very skinny. So I actually got bullied in primary school for being so skinny, and I would be teased for that. And then as I got into high school, started going through puberty, obviously as women, our bodies start to change. And I remember one day I came out and into the lounge room and my dad said, "Oh, you've got hips now." And I was like pinching like my muffin top and I was like, "Oh, I hate this." And I started getting really insecure about how my body was changing. And I think a lot of women go through that at that age. And probably that comment from my dad didn't really help.
Yeah.
And the fact that I remember that even now as well, like I don't remember a lot from my childhood, but I remember that comment. So it must have been impactful.
Yeah.
And then I went down that slippery slope that a lot of women go down, which was restricting my eating and overdoing cardio. So I started running. I was playing sport at the time when I was in high school. I'd have maybe netball training before school, maybe volleyball training after. Or if I didn't, I would like run back to school to volleyball training, then run back, or I would run to the gym, do 2 classes back to back, and then run home. So I was just exercising a lot. I do think part of it was wanting to change my body, but I think the other part of it was not wanting to be at home in the environment that was. And it was my stress response. I've always had exercise has always been my outlet for stress, and I've always loved that. And I think that can be really positive, but it can also be really negative when you overdo it, which I obviously was doing at that point. So it was definitely a coping mechanism. And then I guess it became a control thing too, in the sense of a lot of the time when it comes to disordered eating, it is a control thing. Like you can't control what's going on at home. Like you can't control something in your life, but what you can control is your body and what you're putting in your mouth and these sorts of things. So it becomes this control mechanism. So yeah, I took that too far and got myself to a point where I was very unhealthily thin. And I know like I said, I'm quite tall, and I got down to about 49 kilos. And that was when I found the gym and the idea of bodybuilding. And that was when I started to be like, actually, I want to build muscle. I want to grow, and got my first coach who taught me that I need to eat more and stop doing so much cardio if that's the result I want. And that was kind of the process of my healing, I suppose.
Yeah, wow. Because that was a difficult time just at the beginning before all that started to happen. Your parents split up, didn't they? They divorced. Just taking a very quick break to thank our sponsor, SU Skincare. If you haven't heard of them, SU Skincare started right here in Australia, using Australian ingredients to make skincare straightforward and accessible, especially for men who want results without the fuss. Their journey took them all the way to the US, where they were featured in Macy's and over 300 stores. Now they're back with a fresh approach, focusing on healthy skin and authenticity for everyone. I'm proud to have SU Skincare as a sponsor on Leading Our Own Way. See the show notes for their website and to see how you can keep your skin healthy and confident. And if you're interested in sponsoring like SU Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Now, right back to the episode.
Yeah, so my parents divorced when I was in year 12. So just before my mid-year exams. I think my mum moved out like 2 weeks before my mid-year exams in year 12. So obviously it'd been happening in the background for a few years. You know, your parents don't just wake up and divorce one day. There's been discomfort at home for a while. So yeah, I'd say around that kind of 14, 15 was when I started probably slipping down that slope. And then it continued until I was maybe closer to about 20. And that was when I kind of got my first job in the gym.
Yeah. With you, what I'm seeing is that, not meaning the present moment, but prior, your comfortable, safe space was always a space you were really walking around on eggshells. So you had to find identity outside of where you were sleeping every single day.
And I think it's really interesting as well how I grew up in that environment, and then I ended up back in an environment exactly like that in the relationship that I was
Yeah,
in. And I
that's
think
what I
that
mean.
happens a lot because, yeah, we tend to go back to what is familiar, even if it's not healthy.
You attract, but you also attract that, don't you? Because that's what you're used to. Yeah, if you've got a bad boy father, you're going to attract a bad boy partner, because that's what you're in a way manifesting. Your brain's only wired to see that, so that's all you see going forward in your own personal life as well. It's fascinating that, because I come across that pretty much 90% of my guests, and anyone that I've interviewed and shared stories around, toxic relationships, domestic violence, murder, it all comes back to that type of thing. Not that saying that they connect, but those typical topics. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Yeah. So you've left school. What do you do after school? Where do you go to then?
Yeah, so I finished school 2009 and I started uni, my Bachelor of Business and Law, and I got 3 part-time jobs. I started working at a Action Indoor Sports Centre refereeing volleyball. I got a
Oh,
job at
cool.
Boost Juice making smoothies. And then I also got a part-time job as a receptionist at a gym. So that was, yeah, 2009. When I was 18, I started working at a gym. And in the time there, that was when I started to kind of be exposed to more weight-based training. Like I had been going to a gym when I was younger, like through sport and things like that. But yeah, that was probably the first time I'd seen people really, making weight training a focus. And after a bit of time working there, that's how I kind of ended up going down that road.
Yeah, yeah. Boost Juice, eh? That's a famous
Yeah.
Aussie smoothie company. Speaking of smoothies, healthy or not?
Depends what you put in it.
Well, I was reading, or I listen. I can't remember what I was reading. Or I've heard it on a podcast, but when we process everything that's in a dinghy, something like the glycemic intake increases by 400%. All that the goodness has been taken out essentially because of the processing of it. I'd love to. I don't know if you've got any knowledge on that, but I'd love to. I'm not quizzing you on it, by the way. I was just wondering because it just came to my head. I want to know more about that. I'm fascinated about
Well,
going reading more about that.
if I was to put it into context of other items that we know about, I know if we eat rolled oats compared to quick oats, which quick oats don't have anything added, they're just chopped up oats basically. So quick oats do have a higher glycemic index. So I suppose by that same theory, quick oats are really just kind of processed rolled oats. So yeah, maybe there's an element of that, although yeah, I haven't actually heard that before, that the glycemic index increases even just by chucking something into a blender and consuming it instantly. That is interesting. I would
Yeah,
have to do some research for you.
we'll both research it.
Yeah, we'll come back on that one.
We'll both come back on that one. So listeners, don't quote us on that one, but it's something that I've definitely touched on and want to go more into for sure. Um, all right, so you've is this the time? How old were you when you went into that toxic relationship then?
Oh, that wasn't until I was probably around, I want to say 2016, 2017 was that
Mm,
relationship. So not
like
until I was
24
kind
years
of
old.
mid 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long did you sit in that relationship for?
I was probably about 18 months in total.
And how did you've already explained how you avoided some of the stresses and that you were going through with the family and so on. What did you do during this time to navigate the stress of walking on the eggshells in that relationship?
Yeah, I definitely didn't have a clear strategy. I was competing in bodybuilding, so I was training a lot because I was prepping for a competition.
Mm.
And sorry. And I did use exercise as an outlet in that way, I suppose. But that's something I would have had to do anyway. Like I followed my plan. I couldn't exercise more. So when you're competing in
Yeah.
bodybuilding, you can't exercise more. All you can do is follow the plan. No more, no less, exactly the plan. So yeah, I would say I didn't do a good job of managing that stress because it was around me all the time when I was at home.
Yeah.
Like I was struggling with my sleep again. So I didn't really have very good strategies for that.
And anyone that's struggling in a relationship and navigating whether they come out of it or not, how did you decide to come out of it, and then how did you get out of it?
Yeah. I think I did lean, and probably one of my coping strategies was leaning on friends and therapists as well. I would say speaking to a therapist is so helpful in that context because it allows somebody to objectively tell you this is not okay, or oh, this is something you can work through together, because there's a difference between something that's obviously toxic and harmful to you versus a relationship that might just need to work on. So I think getting that clarity is helpful. But for me, there was a couple of like kind of major things that happened in terms of like loyalty and trust being broken, that for me was like, I can't accept this behavior anymore. And as much as like I was, I want to say, trauma bonded and didn't
Yeah.
necessarily want to let it go, like I had to put myself first and my standards of what I was willing to tolerate in a relationship. And I do think that a big thing in relationships like that, when people are stuck in something like that, is your own self-worth and trying to build your own self-worth so that you can leave and feel empowered enough to leave and know that you deserve better. And it's always hard because they're generally belittling your self-worth throughout that process as well, which is kind of a whole part of it, is it keeps you stuck. And that's why
Mm.
people get stuck in such toxic patterns, because they might go in with good self-worth. Like, I would say that I was a pretty independent and confident person heading into that relationship, but it definitely got broken down throughout the process of it. And it kind of, yeah, it took a lot of support from others and reflection and deep work for me to be like, no, this is not what I want, and this is not what I'm willing to accept. Like, I deserve better than this.
Yeah, absolutely. What It's a fine line, though, isn't it, of not wanting to leave something that you do care about, but you come to a point where you go, "Ah, I need to put myself first." What was that flicker point for you to go over that line and go, I'm out? This is more important to me than the actual relationship.
Yeah, I think it was just when I saw the evidence of the
Oh yeah,
disloyalty towards the end. So it was something that, I'd always been mistreated, but when there was the clear disloyalty at the end, I was like, no,
yeah,
that's me done. There's no coming back from this for me.
yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I've been through that myself. Only when I was a very young adult at the age of like 21. But yeah, no, I get that. There's when they cross that line, it's kind of out, isn't it? Um,
Hmm.
so you've come out of that relationship. What were you doing at that time professionally?
Yeah, so I was still working in the gym, so training clients face to face. I was doing some online as well at that point in time, and that was growing. So the online side of my business was growing at that time, until COVID hit, really. So that was kind of a few years before the COVID lockdown in the gyms. And that was when I had to shift entirely online, and the online side of my business really grew then. So that was when I ended up stepping more away from the face to face and moving just into the online space.
Yeah, nice. Before we before we do come to the end, I want you to just tell us a little bit. I mean, I know we discussed at the beginning around your com, competitions, competing side of things, but you did a few unbelievable things. List off the things you did, like with all your categories and what medals you won, and so on. Yeah, the Open in Victoria, Bikini Open Victoria. Tell us about some of the results you've got.
Yeah, so it was a great career. I started off my first show with no expectations, because obviously, first time you're getting up there, you don't really know if you're going to do well or not. And I ended up winning gold in every category that I entered in that first show. I don't even think my coach at the time believed it. I don't even think he thought I was going to do well, to be honest. But then I just got up there and just cleaned up, which was obviously quite addictive. Like, doing that, you're like, wow, I belong here. Like, I want to do this again. Like, how can I get better? So then, yeah, I competed back to back seasons for a few years, winning the Bikini Open in Victoria. I think, yeah, in my second season, I won it. Then in my third season, that was when I had my adrenal fatigue was starting to come up. Um, so I came second. That was my first experience where I came second overall instead of winning it. And then that made me even hungrier for it to come back and be better. But then I had to take a little bit of a step back, get on top of the adrenal fatigue that I'd been experiencing, get my health back on track so that I could get the result that I wanted with my body. Because like I said at the beginning, you can't out train that sort of stress. So it didn't matter what I did, it wasn't having the positive impact on my bodybuilding journey that I wanted. So took
Mm.
a step back, got my health in check, then came back, and won the bikini and the swimsuit overall in Victoria again. Came second at the Worlds, and then stepped into the IFBB for my final season, where I also had a great winning streak in Victoria and went on to compete in Japan, which was really cool. And came second and sixth in my categories in my first overseas show. And that was kind of when I was like, wow, that was an incredible experience. And I think that's a good note to end on. I can hang up the heels for a little while there.
With the adrenal, I mean, it's all phenomenal. And but with the effects of the adrenal fatigue, what does that look like, and how long did he have to take off during that time?
Yeah, so I spent about 6 months really backing off my training. So I actually focused a lot on just doing yoga, I did some Pilates, which at the time I did not enjoy that at all, but it was kind of like the only way that I could really move without putting too much stress on my body, and just walking. So I didn't do any cardio. I really backed off my weight-based training, and just kind of did some light machine stuff just to try and stimulate some muscle and like keep the muscle tissue there. But I wasn't training hard. So I really, instead of going into the gym and trying to train to failure, I would just kind of go in and try and stimulate a muscle. I had to shift my nutrition, make sure that I was eating enough. So even being in a calorie deficit is a stress on the body. So I had to make sure I was eating enough. I had to change my macro split a little bit. So I ate a lot more fats and less carbs, because when it comes to high cortisol states, it can really impact our ability to respond well to carbs. So I had to really change quite a bit in my diet as well.
Yeah, yeah. Because you adopted a at the end of your career. I mean, I know that's probably a bit early, but you did you looked at your you had a gut protocol that you went through, didn't you? Because you had to get to the bottom of when because your immune system took a bit of a hit. So I remember from I'm looking at my pre notes now, that you said that you had to really look at that and go and change that. Is that right?
Yeah, so I've been through quite a bit of my own health and fitness journeys,
Yeah,
really.
no, you have. It's amazing. But this is where you get your lived experience and knowledge from, right?
100%. And I am not upset about anything that I've been through, or any time I've had to take a step back or change something, because it has taught me so much in what I do now. So I've been through so many experiences that allow me to help my clients better. But the gut
Mm.
protocol was later. So I didn't do that until after I finished competing. So in 2023, I did my gut protocol. And that was kind of a result of post the whole adrenal insufficiency picture. Like that also really impacts your immune system as well, chronic stress. So I was starting to notice impacts of like getting sick all the time, like recurring bacterial infections. And that was when I got it actually in my last prep. I got tonsillitis a few times and bronchitis a few times in my prep, and it was awful. So, my motivation to really drive deeper into that was, well, I can't compete again unless I get this sorted, because that was absolute hell trying to push my body through a bodybuilding prep with a bronchitis that like wouldn't go away. So, that was when I did a bit of a deep dive into, okay, what's happening in my gut health, because something must be off at a deeper level, and went through like a candida protocol, leaky gut protocol. So we can have these conditions come up in our gut as a result of chronic stress is a big one. Consuming like, poor nutrition can impact like negative bacteria or pathogenic bacteria overgrowth. I think as a bodybuilder, even though I always ate pretty well, we do go through periods as a bodybuilder where we have to force in a lot of calories and a lot of carbs, which does mean our diet ends up being higher in sugars and processed foods just to get the calories in without getting too full. So I think that also can play a role. And then obviously the stress of, putting your body through those extremes, getting really lean, then gaining weight, getting really lean again over years, it all adds up. And the way I always describe stress, I've described it like this on my own podcast, is like we have a bucket and we can hold as much stress in our bucket till we get to the top of that bucket, and then it overflows. Everyone's buckets are slightly different size, but when yours overflows, that's when we start to get all this negative cascade of effects. So I think just throughout my life, there'd obviously been, many episodes of chronic stress that had impacted me. And that was just the next cascade effect that I had to fix.
Yeah, it makes sense. The gut microbiome is, after the sleep, is really what I looked at, because I would be eating rubbish till the middle of the night because it was that dopamine pleasure hit, but I'd be eating it till the middle of the night because I didn't want the next day to come quicker. That's that's where I was making myself feel better by
Mm.
drinking bottles of Coke and eating chocolate and chips every single night, because it was
Mhm.
giving me the only pleasure I was getting at the time. So focusing on the gut, it was massive for me too. I know I'm going back and forth here, but I did mean to ask it at the time. The adrenal fatigue. Could you explain to the people who don't really know what that is, what it is, and the effects of adrenal fatigue on the body and your mind?
Yeah, so it kind of comes back to that cortisol curve that we
Oh
were
yeah.
speaking about. So cortisol is a stress hormone. It's released in response to stress. We do need some of it to keep us awake, to give us energy throughout the day. But basically, adrenal fatigue is when your adrenal glands can no longer keep up with the demands from the high cortisol state. So then you end up in an actual low cortisol state. And that also has a cascade effect on your reproductive hormones because it's so closely linked to the production of our DHEAs, which is essentially, we can think about it as like a precursor to other reproductive hormones. So then we start to also feel flat because of the lack of reproductive hormones that are also important for energy, drive, and performance. So that's kind of how it comes about and what it looks like at a physiological level.
Yeah, because cortisol is reduced. It's released behind the adrenal gland. Is that right?
The adrenal glands, yeah.
Yeah, I said that wrong then. But um, I feel like we've done a full circle of your life. Is that, have we filled in all the gaps? Is there anything that you think we've missed out from your journey? We feel it coming back up to the modern day. You actually did you went back to university in 2019 to do the nutritional. Yeah, I remember you telling me that now.
This
Actually,
this is another example of biting off more than I can chew. I went back to uni. I did that because I guess I just loved this holistic side of things. And
yeah,
with all of my experiences, I had realized how much impact all these other things like stress and our hormones have on the female body. So I went back to uni and studied health science, nutritional medicine, which allowed me to, yeah, just really understand the body at a deeper level so that I could really integrate the holistic side of health into my coaching because I just think that if you're not doing that, you're only really scraping the surface.
yeah. Absolutely. I feel like we could go off to many different tangents and make this a very other type of podcast. Where we've tried to keep your journey involved in it, and I can certainly see how your purpose is fitting into the things you've been through and wanting to make that change in other people. So I absolutely love that, and that's what Leading Our Own Way is all about. Is there anything that you think we've missed off today that is super important to share? Do you think?
No, I think we've gone through quite a lot of it.
I love that. Love that. Well, I love what you're doing. If there's I think this is a time just to share with anyone who's listening would like to get in contact with you. Just share your email and your social. I'll put everything in the show notes too. But please just explain it so that if they can hear it, give us your email, give us your details.
Yeah, so my Instagram handle for my main Instagram page is Bec, BEC underscore BFit, so BFIT. You can find my other pages through that, like my podcast, my business mentoring, all that sort of stuff. And if you want to email me directly, it's bec@teambfit.com.au.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you for joining me, Bec. But before you do go, I've got a few final questions. If you could give some of our viewers a general piece of powerful advice based on some of the topics that we've discussed, it could be the relationship, could be the journey that you've been on. What would that be, Bec?
I think it's really just that everything that you want to achieve externally starts from the internal work.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely. Going to that root cause is the thing we have to look at, isn't it? It really is in everything we do, especially even through self-reflection of where we've come from as well and how we lived our lives when we were younger. Your future plans. Just because we're here talking doesn't mean we've made it and we're done. We're still going to climb mountains, and you're probably going to do more things that you can't too much to handle, too much at once. But what are some of your future plans, Bec?
Yeah, well, really just continuing with my two businesses, so the fitness coaching, the business mentoring, like they're both in a great spot. So continuing to grow and evolve those, do more live events. We do a lot of like community building and live events and things like that. So continuing to lean into that and then growing the podcast alongside that, which I'm really excited for that. I feel like it ties everything together nicely and yeah, allows me to provide more value and insights to people. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm really driven by is being able to help people. Like that's what both of the businesses I run, the underpinning of that is just being able to help people do the thing
Yeah.
that I've done or that is my area of expertise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's my final question, really. What is your purpose? I always ask the guest to put it into one powerful line. But if you could put it into one powerful line, what is your purpose, Bec?
Yeah, probably just exactly as I said, to help other women achieve their goals and dreams, whether it's in their fitness or their business. And yeah, just being able to help other women experience like the life transformation and fulfillment that I feel like I've been able to achieve. Because I think fitness coaching, even though a lot of people come to you for that external result, they walk away with so much more. And that's what I'm truly passionate about, is creating that life change.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. I completely get it. I understand completely. Love it. Bec Cameron, thank you for joining me so much on Leading Our Own Way. Everyone who's listening, please go to Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you're following, and type in Built for More, press that follow button, because people don't understand the power of pressing that follow button, and also leaving a review once you've listened to a little bit as well. A 5-star preferably for both of us, for Bec and myself. That would be amazing, because it just helps. It's the best free way of getting these shows out to more and more people who just might need it. You never know. And those listeners, if it's not for you, I guarantee it's somebody in your life that does need Bec, and it needs these journeys of other people as well. So everyone, please go and press follow on both the shows, and please go and press reviews. It helps it reach more people. But thanks, Bec. It's been an honour, and we'll have to hang out or catch up one day in Melbourne and have a coffee or a nice, good meal.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. I feel like it's been a great chat, and lots of people will get so much out of it.
I agree. And I'm going to be holding a live event in Melbourne at Roxy's in September, so you're invited to that. I'll send out the email, don't worry, but you're invited. It'll be good to catch up and have I'm going to have a few people on the couch on stage to come and talk.
Amazing.
So yeah, you're invited to that. I'll give you plenty of notice. But thanks, Bec, for joining me on Leading Our Own Way. To everybody else that's been listening, please reach out to Bec and myself if you need or feel the interest to. That would be amazing. But until next week, join us for another amazing guest, another amazing journey. But more importantly, keep leading your own way. We'll see you then. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. Well, we've come to the end of part this week with Bec Cameron as well. It's so inspiring to have these incredible conversations, particularly with Bec, but with everybody as well each week. I just absolutely love it. Across these 2 parts, Bec reminded us that health is never just about one thing. It's about the connection between mind, body, identity, and the choices we make every single day. The story is one of courage, growth, self-awareness, and using life's challenges to help others rise. If you're enjoying Leading Our Own, please take a moment to press follow on the platform. Please leave a review. It makes a huge difference. Every follow and every review and every share helps this show reach more and more people across around the world. Beautiful thing is, when you have that, and the conversation might just reach someone who truly needs it today. Someone who needs hope, someone who needs encouragement, and somebody who needs a reminder that they are not alone. So please press follow. Keep leading your own way. Keep believing in what's possible. And I'll see you next week for another amazing guest. Thanks to Bec. Please come back sometime soon. We could talk forever. Take care. Have a great week. Keep leading your own way. Thanks for listening and watching Leading Our Own Way. So we can stay together forever and share more incredible journeys, please subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss next week's episode and what that amazing guest has to offer to the world. Please support Leading Our Own Way, and we'll get you on next week's episode.